Hello everyone, just a quick note before we begin. This is a Finnish drumming podcast called Parempi Rumpali Podcast, and Chad Wackerman is our guest in this special episode. Parempi Rumpali Podcast is mostly made for the Finnish drumming community, so the introduction of this episode is in Finnish, but the actual interview is of course in English. Thank you. Tämä on Parempi Rumpali Podcast. Rumpalien ajatuksia ja tarinoita soittamisesta, bändeistä ja elämästä. Tervetuloa Parempi Rumpali Podcastin pariin. Mun nimi on Vilho Rajala ja tänään vieraana on Chad Wackerman. Kuulit oikein, vieraana on siis Chad Wackerman. Ja sanomattakin on selvää, että haastattelu on tehty englanniksi ja etäyhteydellä. Näin ollen Parempi Rumpali podcastin 4. kausi lähtee käyntiin varsin tuoreella otteella, parillakin eri tavalla. Rakas kuuntelija, haluatko olla parempi rumpali? Nyt sinulla on mahdollisuus sekä tukea Parempi Rumpali podcastia että nauttia samalla laadukkaasta soitonopetuksesta kokonaisen vuoden ajan. Drum Routines on Tuomas Rauhalan perustama ja jatkuvasti kehittämä huipputason rumpukoulu. Rauhala oli Parempi Rumpali podcastin vieraana kakkoskaudella reilu vuosi sitten, ja minä olen ollut kahdesti Rauhalan ja Kai Hahdon Hahto Rauhala Drum Camp rumpuleirillä oppilaana, joten voin omalta osaltani vahvistaa, että opetus on erittäin laadukasta, inspiroivaa ja sopii kaiken tasoisille soittajille. Drum Routines Lab tarjoaa vuosijäsenyyden hintaan 199 € kerralla maksettaessa. Vuosijäsenyys on erittäin kattava opetuskokonaisuus, joka sisältää kaiken Drum Routines-materiaalin, siis myös kaikki erikseen myynnissä olevat kurssit sekä vierailevien opettajien sessiot. Tälle vuodelle Drum Routines Labiin ovat tulossa vierailulle muun muassa Ukri Suvilehto, saksalainen Claus Hessler, italialainen Federico Paulovich, Jaska Lukkarinen ja lukuisat muut kotimaiset ja kansainväliset huippunimet. Vuosijäsenyys on kuukautta kohti huomattavasti edullisempi kuin tavallinen kuukausijäsenyys, saati sitten Drum Routines-tuotteiden ostaminen yksittäin. Kun ostat vuosijäsenyyden osoitteesta drumroutines.com/parempirumpali, siis drumroutines.com/parempirumpali yhteen kirjoitettuna, merkittävä osuus tästä vuosihinnasta ohjataan Parempi Rumpali podcastin tekemiseen. Tämä on erittäin merkittävä kädenojennus Rauhalalta ja toivon nöyrästi, että teistä mahdollisimman moni tähän mahdollisuuteen tarttuu. Ylipäätään se, että Parempi Rumpali podcastin ensimmäinen virallinen yhteistyökumppani on Tuomas Rauhala, on minulle kyllä suuri ilo ja kunnia. Drum Routines Lab vuosijäsenyys, siis kerralla maksettaessa 199 €. Tässä on sinulle erinomainen tilaisuus sitoutua siihen, että saat aidosti pysyviä muutoksia ja parannuksia omaan soittoosi. Teet suuren palveluksen itsellesi sitoutumalla vuodeksi Drum Routines Labin opetukseen ja siinä sivussa autat myös Parempi Rumpali podcastia jatkamaan uusien jaksojen ja kausien tekemistä. Kaikki voittavat siis. Ja vielä erikoisetuna Parempi Rumpali podcastin kautta liittyvänä Drum Routines Lab vuosijäsenenä saat 50 € alennuksen mistä tahansa Hahto Rauhala Drum Camp -leiristä, oli se sitten kesällä tai talvella, ja tämä etu lunastetaan kyseiselle leirille ilmoittautumisen yhteydessä. Podcastin kautta liittyneille vuosijäsenille siis 50 € alennus Hahto et Rauhala -leiristä, joista lisätietoja tulee myöhemmin. Mene siis osoitteeseen drumroutines.com/parempirumpali ja liity vuosijäseneksi heti. Se saattaa olla soittajan urasi paras päätös. Sitten jakson aiheeseen. Chad Wackerman on amerikkalainen rumpalilegenda, joka on soittanut muun muassa itsensä Frank Zappan ja Allan Holdsworthin kanssa, ja ansioluettelo on täysin posketon tähtisikermä, Sitä voi käydä ihastelemassa muun muassa osoitteessa chadwackerman.com. Nyt maaliskuun lopussa hänet on mahdollista nähdä ilmielävänä Suomessa peräti 3 keikalla Chad Wackerman The L.A. All Stars kokoonpanon kanssa. Ja tähän bändiin kuuluvat niin ikään Allan Holdsworthin bändissä soittanut kosketinsoittaja Steve Hunt, 3. Holdsworth-veteraani ja Yellow Jacketsin perustajajäsen eli basisti Jimmy Haslip sekä kitaristi Alex Maciacek, jolla on kokemusta muun muassa Terry Bozzio'n ja Virgil Donatin kanssa soittamisesta. Sanalla sanoen kovaa ryhmää siis. Keikat ovat Porin Promenadisalissa tiistaina 24.3., Äänekosken Painotalon isossa salissa keskiviikkona 25.3. ja Helsingin Tiivistämöllä torstaina 26.3. Lämpärinä kaikilla keikoilla nähdään fingerstyle-kitaristi Jeff Ogg, joka, kuten kohta ilmenee, on myös tämän koko The Impossible Rock Fusion Tour kiertueen puuhamies. Suosittelen kaikille rumpaleille ja muillekin korkean tason soittamisesta kiinnostuneille lippujen hankkimista. Itselläni on lippu Helsingin keikalle ja odotan sitä suurella mielenkiinnolla. Kiitos Jussi Häkkiselle, että tarjosi Wackermania mulle haastateltavaksi. En varmasti olisi omin voimin tällaiseen ryhtynyt, mutta nyt kun tarjottiin, niin oli erittäin vaikea kieltäytyä. Tästä kansainvälisestä avauksesta huolimatta Parempi Rumpali podcastin 4. kaudella tulee myös vanhaan tapaan ihan kotimaisia haastatteluja. Voi olla, että tulee lisääkin näitä ulkomaiden ihmeitä, tai voi olla, että ei. Aika näyttää. Joka tapauksessa uusi jakso tulee joka toinen torstai näillä näkymin toukokuun loppuun asti. Eli vihdoin viimein saadaan tämä 4. kausi tästä nyt sitten käyntiin. Mutta mennään asiaan. Olkaa hyvä, Chad Wackerman.
A lot of it's about casting. It's like it's the people playing. We have Alex Maciacek on guitar, amazing guitar player from Vienna originally, but he lives in Los Angeles. He's played with many groups, including Terry Bozzio's trio for many years. And the band UK and among other things, plus his own band. Jimmy Haslip is playing bass. He's probably most famous for playing in the Yellow Jackets, which is a quite popular kind of jazz fusion group. And we played together with Allan Holdsworthin. Jimmy and I did, and with the Allan Holdsworthin, Alan Pasqua group. We did quite a few projects with that and a lot of touring. And then Steve Hunt is playing keyboards with us, who is also an alumni of Allan Holdsworth's band and many more, Billy Cobham, Stanley Clark. And so the players are really amazing. It's very rare when I could get this kind of lineup. And it's also very rare that I get to tour in Europe. So this will be something we're very excited about. We have a brand new recording project too, which we've made up CDs to sell on the tour. So it's actually not going to be released. If anybody wants it, they have to come to the gig.
Okay.
They can hear it. Probably eventually we'll put it out other ways, but for now it's only going to be available at these on our European tour, the Impossible Rock Fusion Tour. So, yeah, and the music we're going to play, it's a combination of, I have 5 CDs out myself, so I'm a composer as well. So we're going to be playing a lot of my compositions, a couple of Alex's compositions, of course, a few new ones off the new CD, and probably a little bit of Allan Holdsworth music too. So it's kind of in that genre, it's kind of Holdsworth Zappa world. So
Yes.
I don't want to give everything away because I think if you just come, you'll be surprised.
Yeah, well,
and it'll be an adventure for sure. I mean, I like music with a lot of contrast, because if you just play things that are too much the same, it gets boring, So there's a lot of beauty in some of the music, and then there's a lot of obviously very fiery and exciting things that happen too. So it'll be a wild ride for sure.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Sounds amazing, and can't wait to get to see and hear what you do. Would you say, are you the originator of this lineup and this tour? Because
Yes.
it's your name in the title, so.
Yes, yeah. This is.
How did that opportunity come about? Because you mentioned that it's rare to get this kind of a lineup like together and on tour. So
Well, to tour, especially to tour, we've done it in L.A. because, and still it's difficult with people's schedules. They're so crazy. But I just asked the guys if they'd be into doing this, and my old friend Jeff Ogg, who's a promoter. I worked with him with many bands, including Allan Holdsworthin tours. And I said, would you be interested in trying to put a tour together in Europe? And he was very excited about it. So, and the guys luckily they blocked out this time, and things fell into place. So it's a very dense tour. I think we're doing 27 gigs, something like that, 27 concerts. So it'll be full. It'll be full. But yeah, no, it's I enjoy playing my own compositions, of course. So it kind of started that way.
Okay.
And we've done it before with a couple different bass players. Originally, Jimmy Johnson on bass. He's my old friend. And we play in all sorts of bands together, including sometimes with James Taylor, the American singer-songwriter. But Jimmy wasn't available to do this kind of length. And so I asked my good friend Jimmy Haslip, and he said yes, absolutely. So here we are.
Yes, it's of course important to have a good bassist and
good everything.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Well,
everybody. It's interesting because everybody in the band is a producer and everyone is a composer, too. So it's great. It's very fun. So the compositions are being very true to the compositions, but then when the solo sections come, it really can go anywhere, and that's one of the exciting parts about it.
Well, would you still say that you are kind of the band leader in this project? You make the
Yes, I am.
Yes, so you kind of make the final.
And
decisions.
we're most of the set will be my music.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
How does that role fit you? Do you enjoy it, like compared to being a sideman, or?
Oh, it comes with a lot more responsibility. Beyond the music. Anytime you're the leader of the band, you've got to come up with. You have to do. You have a lot of hats. We say, you have your kind of producer hat, you have your composer hat, you have your organizer hat, you have your. There's just a lot of moving parts for a tour. A lot of promotion things that need to be done, social media stuff these days, trailers, tour trailers to kind of let people give a hint of what the music is. Because this is a band that doesn't tour regularly. It's a little bit different if you come to Europe every year, but this is not the case at all. It's rare, very, very, very rare. So
yeah,
I did one tour with my band in the '90s, and that was when I was living in Australia, so it was a different lineup. But yeah, so it's been a long, long time before we've played my music in Europe.
Yeah, different lineup and different time too, certainly.
Yeah.
As you mentioned that you have all of the guys in this band have a lot of different skill sets and like crazy musical talent. How would you describe the band chemistry and the band dynamic, like both on and off stage? What is it like? Is it like everything firing constantly, like super intensely, or is it just like relaxed and laid back and easy?
Basically the personalities are really fun. There's a lot of humor, a lot of joking that happens. But when it comes to the music, it's obviously rehearsals, and it's very, very, I don't say intense. It's just, we want to get it right, And once you get it, it's like when I played with Frank Zappa, you had to be able to play the music correctly, and then you can have fun with it. So, but you have to get there. And some of the music is very challenging. It's a little bit different. I tend not to write chord symbols. I don't know if you play any guitar or keyboards, but normally in a jazz sense or rock sense, even you usually give the guitar player and the keyboard player just chord symbols. And then they might play their own interpretation of what that chord symbol means to them, especially if they're a jazz person. They might play the notes in the chord. They might add notes to it. Might obviously leave notes out. But my music is typically I write out the voicings in more classical style. So you read the notes from top to bottom. So there's a lot more reading involved in the learning process. But these players, obviously, they all, no problem with that. And sometimes they'll name them whatever they want to name them. So yeah, really, it's. But no, we have a lot of fun. And I think that's really important. If you have like these tours, these kind of grassroots tours, they call them, because we're not traveling in private jets. We're not staying at luxury hotels. This is a more of a grassroots tour. So you have to have fun. So if you don't, it's just not worth it. It's not worth leaving home. It's really not, because we all live in, except for Steve, we all live in L.A. and there's a lot going on here, and there's a lot of other bands that play, and there's a lot of fun that can be had at home. So if you're going to be going on the road, it has to be fun. Otherwise, I'm not interested in doing it on any job, sideman or leader.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, you can't.
Did you come up with the name, the L.A. All-Stars? What's the history of that?
No, actually, Jeff Ogg came up with the name. Jeff is the promoter.
Yeah.
And he felt that he felt in a marketing sense he could do better getting us more gigs if he had that name. So I didn't come up with it, and the band didn't come up with it.
Okay. Well,
the record is called Cube, which is Quuube. So that's another name. The band itself is kind of referring to ourselves as Cube, but for this tour with the LA All-Stars, for sure.
Okay, I understand that. Well, have you always been a composer, or is that something that you started doing like later on in your career? What's the history of
I guess
that?
the first piece I wrote was for Allan Holdsworthin, and he put it on his records called Secrets. It was a tune called Peril Premonition. That was my first complete composition. And Al and I were very close. I played with him over a kind of 30-year period. If any of you don't know his music, you should definitely check it out. It's like nothing else. And he was probably his guitar playing and the way he looked at music was completely different than anybody else. And I'm really proud to have a history with him. But no, ever since, like, I guess, in the early 90s, I started composing. And really enjoyed it. I mean, I've done all sorts of. I've composed for a TV show once, we were like a house band on a talk show. It was actually Andy Summers' band, and but they needed like a lot of music, just play-ons and play-offs, things like that. Then I've composed music for Allan Holdsworthin and my own records, and I've done some other things in my life where like library music, where it's just you write music specifically for a company. And then they put it out for basically television. So all sorts of things, like you need music for extreme sport, so imagine people jumping off of cliffs on hang gliders and so rocking, big heavy rock and exciting stuff. Other times they want just something really beautiful, Latin music. And that's kind of fun because you're working as a composer you have these assignments, and I think it's kind of fun to do that. Your name is not really involved in it, but this company sells it to TV programs. It's an easy way for TV, because the way we don't have to get into it, but television is very last minute, often they don't think ahead too far. So it's like, oh no, we need music. So where can we get it? So I've done a lot of people I know have done library music, but it's a fun thing because you have to really create a lot of it. So I've probably done 10 or 12 CDs worth of that kind of music as a composer too. You just get these assignments, and that's kind of fun. You're creating moods for a specific visual.
Yeah. And all this, of course, in addition to the actual like solo records that you have done too.
Yeah, those are different.
Yeah.
Those are I have very specific things in mind for those. And again, it's the casting. What I mean casting is like the people. I don't know if you use that term, but it's like for actors, if you're choosing the right people to create a group of people that can have good interaction together, you're casting.
Yes, I know that concept.
Very important, especially in music where you're going to let people have some freedom. Some music is very pattern based, and you need to play the patterns correctly as possible with the right mood and energy. But some bands don't have much freedom. But this kind of music, it's really both. You need to play the compositions to keep those true, but then there's sections of the music that have been designed where it can really go anywhere. And that's what I like, to change it up, keep it. It feels like it's like a living thing, rather than having the whole night of music be very, very composed, where you're just playing the part,
Yes, and
that makes sense. Yeah, so we involve a lot of improvisation.
Yes, I was about to ask you
the
about
jazz sense. Yeah,
I was about to ask you about improvisation. Sorry to cut you out, but
Sure.
but you mentioned somewhere that that improvising on a high level is not like just some random things happening. It's like a very high level of. It's like a composition that is happening in the now, or something of the sort.
That's the way I like to do it. For me, great in group improvisation, right? The first thing is you have to. I think you need to really listen intensely, listen to what's going on around you, and then if nothing's going on around you, feel confident and strong enough to create something that's a statement. It doesn't always have to be. It's a pretty blank canvas if you're just improvising without any starting point. And usually on my records have been kind of short pieces that are true improvisations. Like we don't even talk. We just say, okay, we're recording now. Somebody start. And somebody starts, and it's all reactive, and it can go all sorts of places because again, the casting is so good. These kind of musicians play in a way where they're just listening really hard, and they're not just playing for themselves. The way I enjoy it is that if you improvise, to me, yes, improvisation at its highest level is completely connected to composition. It can be spontaneous composition, and it can be group composition that's just happening. But you need people who have. You want to have people with kind of similar musical taste, I think, and people who are kind of group players. At the same time, I mean, you can't just be waiting for something to happen when you improvise. Like sometimes there needs to be some kind of statement made, and that statement could end up being a theme, even in a spontaneous way. It's just happening very quickly. Where if you're sitting down writing a composition, you'll really think about what do I want this theme to be, and maybe I'll try 5 different themes and pick one and adjust timings and space and tempo and all the things you would do in composition. But yeah, it's very connected. But casting is important because you want people who listen one of the biggest things about improvisation is listening to what's going around you and making decisions about, where you can take it, or where you even, we have a million choices. You can, as a drummer, even you can bring a lot more energy to something that's happening, or a lot less energy. You can decide to make it really pretty, and it can get to these very exciting heights, and sometimes it's okay to even stop and let somebody else take it. It's like, it's really fun. It's really fun. And it's one of the things that I think makes music really feel alive, because I think so much of our music today is so worked on and perfected, especially with when everybody uses computers now. So you can move everything around and you can make everything perfect, and sometimes it needs to be that. But some of the old records that we like have mistakes in them, or have certain energy that maybe people today would correct, and it changes it, for good or bad. It changes it. So it's nice. I think one of the nice things out when you come and hear this band is you're going to be hearing some musicians that are really going to go for it. And there's always that it's kind of something Frank Zappa used to say. He said, let's play like there's, just play like you have no net under you. Like you're a circus performer on the trapeze. So go for it, totally go for it, but know that there's really no safety below you. You just go for it and let's see what happens. And it's
that's amazing.
This band is kind of like that. Like they'll try stuff and you'll feel that energy of things happening, and every night will be different in these kind of improv sections. And I think that's the exciting thing. It's like that's one of the exciting things about seeing a live band, because it can go terribly wrong. But a really great band of musicians that are really listening and really lock into a groove or lock into a harmony, chord changes, whatever it is, it's really exciting because it's not guaranteed. There's a little bit of danger involved.
Yes.
When you really, really try something. The fun thing is that these guys are at such a high level. The things they try are really outrageous, that are dangerous. So yeah, I think it's an exciting show.
Yes.
But there's some ballads and some beautiful things to contrast the kind of the stuff that's fiery too.
By the way, I just have to tell you that I just listened to your Working Drummer podcast interview from like probably a year or
a few years back, a couple years back, maybe.
Yeah, I had listened to it before, and I just wanted to revisit it, and I want to tell our listeners now that go check that out, because in that episode you tell beautiful, funny stories about your times with Frank Zappa and the famous audition, and of course you also speak a lot about Allan Holdsworthin and the unique genius that he really was. So
absolutely was, yeah.
So but one thing that kind of caught my ear this time was the very end of your story about the Zappa audition, which was that when he finally, after this tiring exercise of I don't know how many days it lasted, but you hung out there for a few days.
It was a 3-day audition. He had, I won't say the whole thing, but just quickly. So I heard about the auditions late.
Yes.
So he had been auditioning drummers and bass players for 3 weeks, and there was a nucleus of the band that was set, definitely going to be on the tour, which is Tommy Mars, Ed Mann, Ray White, and Steve Vai.
Yes.
So they were the band, and he was looking for a bass player and drummer. And the drummer before was Vinnie Colaiuta. So, they were used to Vinnie Colaiuta, this band, which is totally intimidating in itself. But so I heard about the audition for the last 3 days. So he went through all this stuff, all sorts of everything you can imagine, all sorts of styles. Actually, the reading, he wrote classical music. So the reading on the drum set was like reading a clarinet part. It had all the notes on the score on the paper. So you had to get past that, and then he was challenging you with all these things, mathematical things, and play reggae in 7/8 and play ska in 13 and play just adding more and more, making things more and more difficult until you fell down.
Yes.
Then it was like, okay, now I know what level you're at, that kind of thing, for 3 days.
Yeah.
But at the end of the third day, I went home and he called me and he said, well, we've decided to offer the gig for you. Here's the deal. We're going to rehearse for 3 months, 8 hours a day. We're going to tour at least for 3 months. And then, all the details of that. And he said, well, I'm offering you the job because I like your feel.
And that's what caught my ear. That it was the feel after all this torment, with all this hardship,
all the mathematical stuff.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's you can play that. You can play all time signatures and polyrhythms, and you can be very correct with it. But if it doesn't, if people don't feel like dancing when you play it, it doesn't mean much. To me, it doesn't mean much. There's because you can play difficult things, and the feeling you get when listening to it can be, wow, that sounds hard, or it could be like it just feels like $1 million. That's the two levels of it. And certain music is very mechanical and requires that kind of precision and no dynamics, just everything hitting hard. And other stuff, because Frank loved these old recordings of like doo-wop music and stuff that had really funny time feels, and New Orleans music that was not, the big pulse is steady, but what's going on in between is like moving. And he kind of wanted his music, even though it had all this polyrhythmic factors to it and odd time signatures, he wanted it to feel great. Who cares if it's a 15 or whatever the number is? That doesn't matter if it doesn't move people.
Yes.
So I really liked that, because at the time when I was really into groove drummers when I auditioned for them. I was just really into these great studio and R&B drummers at the time, and Jeff Porcaro and Bernard Purdy, and I was really focused in that at the time. So maybe when I played it, I had a little bit more lope to it or something. But I was lucky because it was something he liked. So
yes.
But and I saw him even like pull apart classical players, classical chamber orchestras and things where they were playing some of his compositions, and he would rehearse them. And he would like stop them, and go, no, it's gotta. He would tell them certain notes to bring out, certain notes to make softer, and it would stylize it in a way which made it feel really cool.
Yes.
So it's, the last thing you want it to sound like an exercise, because for musicians we need to practice, things that are challenging to us, and they will sound like an exercise at first, but then use your ear and try to make this exercise sound like music. That's the whole goal.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. So
now, is this feel aspect something that you had already been kind of working on, like consciously, or was it because you were really young at the time?
Well, my father was a music teacher and a drummer himself, but I just remember he turned me on to a lot of different music, big band music and jazz stuff, and like in this, when like Jimi Hendrix came out and Cream, all those kind of bands, Dad would buy those records. So I heard that stuff and I realized, oh, there was like a I could tell with the drummers, I could tell Mitch Mitchell had heard a lot of Elvin Jones. And I could tell that, Ginger Baker heard a lot of Elvin Jones because they had a kind of a bit of a jazz influence in their playing. It wasn't, rock at that point wasn't like as stiff as it became later. So it had more, I call it lope. It's like movement to it. Even though time can be steady, it has some movement in there that jazz has. So, but anyway, I realized all the drummers I liked had a personality. Even when I was quite young, it was like, well, why does this person sound this way and this person sounds totally different? Even when they're playing a similar song. And so I tried to figure out what the differences were, and it, feel is a very vague term, but I realized all these players that I liked had a definite sound and a signature. Like in a few bars I could tell usually who was playing drums. And if you look at, you can tell Elvin Jones in a few bars, Tony Williams in a few bars, Jim Keltner I can tell right away, Stuart Copeland I can tell, Steve Jordan. There's a lot of drummers that have something identifiable, and I always wanted to have that.
Well, do you think you do?
I think I have a sound, yeah. I think, and people tell me I do. So, and sometimes it's, I saw by working with Allan Holdsworth, he was incredibly creative, but he also, there were guitaristic things that he chose not to do. So by editing out things that were more stereotypical, it made him unique.
He didn't want to be a cliche.
Yeah, he was very hard on himself. Like, no cliches, never. There are no blues licks on any Allan Holdsworth record. He didn't start with the blues. Well, most guitar players start with the blues, so they have, they bend certain notes, and it becomes pretty predictable. And not to say anything bad about blues players, I love blues, but a lot of people play the same thing. So he was like, okay, no blues, and he also wasn't going to strum the guitar. So that's a big difference. That's a really big difference. If you're not going to ever go low string to the high string on a strum, he wanted to play it more like a keyboard, all the notes at once, so more classical style. So I noticed with drummers too, some drummers didn't play certain things, and like, oh, okay, they don't do that, but they're doing something else to kind of replace it, So I always found that interesting.
How and when did you start kind of thinking about and discovering this drumming identity and your own voice on the drums?
I was very, very young. I mean, I was. I think even when I went to a couple. My dad took me to a couple jazz camps. They used to have these kind of big band jazz camps for kids or for high school and college level. But I was pretty young when I went to one of these, and there was a Stan Kenton was a big band leader. He had a really unique big band, but he would, in the summertime, he would spend like a week or 2 weeks at a college, and his whole band became teachers. So students can come and they could watch the band rehearse, and he would bring his arrangers. You could take arranging classes for the week. You could take group lessons with the drummer in the band. And at that time, the drummer was John Von Ohlen. And he played really different. He just played totally different than anybody I'd ever heard. It was like, but the band loved him. They loved him so much because I realized he's making the band's job really easy. Like, he's not confusing anybody by what he plays. And his time was really great, and the kind of way he swung was different. It was more kind of more on a triplet or more kind of open. It just felt great. And the sound was totally different. Like, he had no muffling in any drum. The bass drum was low and big, wide open, boom, and he just played in a way that was totally different. He was a trombone player to start with and switched to drums. So maybe sometimes that changes you're thinking, but just the band loved him, and the band sounded amazing when he played. So I was thinking, wow, this is really different, because rock was really popular in the 70s then, and this guy everybody had pillows in their bass drums. This guy's it's like just wide open and confident. And anyway. But yeah, hearing Tony Williams, that was a sound. Elvin Jones, that was a sound, even though they both played jazz and totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. So this camp concept sounds amazing, by the way, like
there's a lot of famous musicians that went to those camps.
Yes.
Dave Weckl went. I found out that Piccaro's went, Jeff Piccaro and Mike Piccaro, and they went to those camps. Yeah, loads of great musicians.
Yeah.
It was a very inspirational thing. And when I think I was 10 or 11 years old when I went. And I was kind of the youngest kid at this camp. So the drummer kind of looked after me, and he's like during the big band rehearsals, he said, just sit here behind my drums, watch the music go by, and I'll point things out as I rehearse. It was amazing. Amazing feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
And then later on, Peter Erskine was a drummer when he was 18 years old in these camps, and I went to that camp. And Carlos Vega was one of the students, all these great players I got to meet, and, young at the time. So yeah, lucky to live in near Los Angeles, to have that kind of...
That's so amazing.
Kind of access, yeah. Because there was no YouTube, there's no videos, nothing. There was live music. And for a lot of jazz, you couldn't, being a young person, you couldn't go to jazz clubs. You couldn't get in because there were bars.
Yes.
So you had to be 21 years old. But unless it was a restaurant, then you could go. So.
Yes, I understand that. Well, as your father was a music teacher, and you also, of course, you teach.
I teach drummers, yeah.
Yeah. So what is your teaching approach like, and do you have some key concepts that you seem to be repeating time and again?
A lot of
with
people
different students?
I studied. My father and I and my brothers actually studied all with a master teacher named Murray Spivak.
Yes,
and a lot of he focused solely on hand technique and reading. And he had a whole system that was totally different than anybody else. And it was based on efficiency. And he knew all the muscle groups. He knew, he would pretty much start everybody from the beginning, no matter if you had played for 20 years. Because he just had a way, it was super efficient, so you could have longevity. You could play for years and years and years and not hurt any part of your body. Some of the famous drummers he taught: Louis Bellson, and Shelly Manne, and Joe Morello, Vinny Colaiuta, Joey Heredia, Carlos Vega, my brothers. On and on. He just had this amazing method. So a lot of people want to learn this method, so they'll take lessons from me for this hand technique. And I also did a video version of it on a drummer's website, amazing drummer's website called Drum Channel. drumchannel.com. It's a 30 episode version of just this hand technique. So and each episode's about 20 minutes long.
Yeah. It's still available for purchase online?
Yeah,
okay.
For purchase, or if you subscribe, you can get it that way on Drum Channel. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. But it's great because it teaches you a lot more than you even realize when you're learning it. A lot of things I realized years later. This is what he showed me. He was a very, very smart man. He also had a second career, very successful career in sound. He was in his 70s when I took from him. I was about 13, 14 years old. But he already had this career he did sound for movies, and he was one of the biggest innovators in sound recording for film. So he did a lot of American classic films like Sound of Music and Hello, Dolly and West Side Story, on and on, all these famous. He was the first person to come up with a syncing system for sound and separate multi-track recording. He was a very, very smart, kind of genius character as well.
Yeah, sounds like a kind of a Renaissance kind of person.
Very, very, very much, yes.
Yes. Well, you mentioned your brother. Did you use plural? Do you have like drumming brothers? I
have three brothers.
Okay.
I'm the eldest, and then Bob is a bass player, a really great bass player. He also played with Allan Holdsworthin. He used to do sessions with Jeff Porcaro in the 80s and stuff, and
okay.
Played with a lot of artists. He's mostly been a music producer for the last 15 years or so. He has a company that produces music for theme parks, for all the Disney parks and Universal Studio parks. So it's a big production music. Like he hires orchestras and things like that for recording. And then John is in Nashville now, but he used to play with Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac and Kazumi Watanabe, Brian Auger, Bunny Burnell. He's a great drummer and mallet player too. He's a great vibes player. Okay. And then my youngest brother is Brooks Wackerman. He's in Avenged Sevenfold,
yes,
metal band, and used to be in Bad Religion and Suicidal Tendencies and all those bands.
Yes, and
so there's four of us, four brothers.
Four brothers, okay, and all are professional musicians. So I guess your father did a good job, and like like showing you the way.
Well, we all wanted to do it, yeah. But Dad, my dad was. Well, he was a great, amazing teacher and had amazing patience. But he was like, well, if you want to do this, you have to put your whole self into it. You can't just do it halfway. So we all had the bug to do it. So it was a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work but when you see results and you start to feel proud, and then the whole thing about being in a band, the whole social aspect. Even when you're young, all of a sudden you have friends who have a common goal, playing music together. It's a very good thing.
Yes. I interviewed Brooks Wackerman like 20 years ago when he was still in Bad Religion. And we talked about you briefly in that interview, but I don't quite remember. It's so long ago, and I didn't find the magazine. I didn't find the story anywhere in my archives.
That's all right.
But I just remember talking about you, and he was like that. He's quite a bit younger than you, so apparently, like his like itch to start to play drums did not necessarily have to do so much with you. It was just like your overall really musically inspiring family and the environment and everything.
Right.
So,
Dad. Yeah.
So
sure.
Probably he told me about there are more brothers as well, but I just didn't remember it. But anyway, as you are the oldest, how would you, what kind of thoughts and feelings have you had, like following your younger brother's music careers?
Oh, just incredibly proud of him. I mean, he was really done on his own, because there is a big age difference. I mean, my brother John had more influence on Brooks because he was younger. There's a 17-year age difference. So when I was 18, 19, I just started, went to college and started working. So I wasn't really around that much when Brooks was growing up. Of course, a bit, but I wasn't living in the house anymore. So where my other brothers were. So Brooks had more of a upbringing with my other brothers, but he works really hard. He still practices all the time. He has a very strict practice schedule, and he's amazing. He's come up with his own style as well. He uses the same technique that I use from the same teacher, which is interesting because you'd think, well, maybe heavy metal stuff you'd have to hit so much harder, but the same technique works for everything. So
Murray Spivak is behind his skills as well.
Yeah, so many players. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. Well, one last thing that I wanted to ask you about is that have you ever, like you said that you haven't toured Europe that much, but do you remember being in Finland like at all ever?
With Zappa, the first time I came to Helsinki was. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I think in '82 was the first time. I think we played in Helsinki with Allan Holdsworthin. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's been a long time.
Okay, so I was just wondering that do you have any idea what to expect? But apparently you do. If you've been here in the 80s, then I hope you will be positively surprised.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I'm thinking. I think there was one tour I did also. Played in Pori. It was a jazz festival, and I played there with John Pattitucciin.
Yeah.
It was a great kind of all-star band. It was John Beasley on keys and Chris Potter on sax, but with John Pattitucci's. Yeah. That's right. But yeah, it's very rare, so I'm really happy to be able to come. And
yes, and gotta buy the CD too, because you advertised it really efficiently here, so that you only get it by buying on the tour. It's not like
it's only available at the gig, and it really came out. We're super proud of it.
Yeah,
it's a very exciting CD. It'll take you on a ride.
Yeah, so it was Cube, like Q-U-U-B or.
Yeah, Q-U-U-B-E.
B-E, yes, Cube. Okay,
Cube, yeah.
I gotta remember that. But thank you so much, Mr. Wackerman,
thank you so much.
For your
really
time
appreciate
and
it.
your generosity with it. And
we're really excited about coming to Finland, so it'll be really great. Hope to see you people there.
Siinä oli mun keskustelu Chad Wackermanin kanssa. Suunnattoman fiksu ja kohtelias, erittäin inspiroiva herrasmies. Ja jos mielesi tekee tätä herkkua lisää, koska tässä nyt oli aika rajallisesti aikaa, niin kuuntele ihmeessä se Working Drummer podcastin jakso 492, joka tuossa mainittiin. Siinä on erinomaisia tarinoita ja se taitaa kestääkin melkein 2 tuntia. Ja siinä on sitten Wackerman ja kerrakseen. Kiitos kun kuuntelit Parempi Rumpali Podcastia. Palataan asiaan 2 viikon päästä.